I have learned so much since I woke up this morning, so it's very inspiring to be here. And I have a little bit a different perspective, I think, on food diversity that we have been discussing here. But now I just tell a little brief about what our social enterprise, Send More Spices, is. It's a cafe and a catering company, and we have been existing for about 4 years. And what we do in Send More Spices is that we prepare, cook, and sell food based on ethnic minority women's knowledge and cooking skills. And the reason why, there are plenty of reasons why we started this company, but what our mission is actually to give our guests the opportunity to enjoy home-cooked meals based on the traditions that the women working in our kitchen carry with them from their home countries. Being a social enterprise means that we are not for private profit and that we have a larger social mission, namely to foster growth and to create jobs for ethnic minority women. Because ethnic minority women are the largest group in Denmark who is furthest away from the labor market. Actually, there's an unemployment rate about 50%, so that's quite a lot, of course. And there is huge consequences on an individual level if you don't have a job. There are research that concludes that if you haven't been working for a very long period or for a longer period of time, then you have a poor life quality, you get lonely, and your health suffers both mentally and physically. And of course, for society in general, unemployment is extremely costly. So therefore, we sense that it was a necessity to make some real change. And Send More Spices originates from a small NGO called the Immigrant Women's Center, and which have existed for more than 30 years. And there's a lot of ethnic minority women coming there together with their children. And these women, they were pleading and seeking for jobs because they, of course, wanted to be a part of the labor market in Denmark. But it was very difficult because if you don't have an education, if you don't have experience in being in the labor market, it's very difficult to get a job in Denmark. So we sat down around a table and talked to these women, together with these women, say, what can we do? And because food always has been a huge thing in the Immigrant Women's Center, we agreed on if we should do some business, if we should do some real business and to create some jobs, it should focus around the food. So then we actually got ahead and started up a business, and we were very keen on the social thing because we have always worked socially, but to tell you the truth, no one of us has ever run a restaurant for, but we did it. It was fun, and it is fun. So, but in these 4 years, it has become more and more evident to me and my colleagues, I think, that besides of creating a business and creating jobs for these women, both the concept of Send More Spices and the food that we make have a number of valuable social functions. I think that we all know that food is fundamental for our identity and our feeling of belonging. And it's my claim that if the food that we are culturally bound to is accessible and gets recognition, we are likely to feel more obliged to play an active role in the community that we live in. So therefore, food and the diversity of food is crucial to ensure cohesion in a multicultural community. Being located in Nørrebro is the area here in Copenhagen, which is the most diverse, most harsh area actually in Copenhagen. There's a lot of story about that area right now. I don't want to mention those. It has been amazing to experience how the food prepared and cooked through generations in countries very far from Denmark has become a very important driver of social change. The food of Send More Spices represents a group of citizens who are kind of social vulnerable, who in general are not included in many, if any, actually, forms of community, but primarily stays in their homes and in their households. But with this physical manifestation of their food culture, the restaurant as a physical manifestation, they have suddenly a space and they have a strong saying and a very important role to play in their community. And in More Spices, we experience this every day. We experience the bridge building capacity of food every day. We experience it when we meet our guests in the restaurant, whenever catering is ordered, if someone is booking a cooking class because they want to know more about More Spices, and the stories that the women have about the food they're making. And we also feel the affiliation with the community, our local community, when we have this People's Kitchen every Tuesday, and week after week, our local neighbor, they actually attend this. So it's just this huge, almost family dinner we have every Tuesday. It's very nice. Of course we know it, and that has been a change as well, because when we go to our local supermarket or go to the greengrocers, we actually greet one another, and that didn't happen in the same extent before we created or built up More Spices. So all in all, the food we are serving adds a new experience and new food stories to our community. And in the same, it provides the women behind the pots and the pans with new identities. They're not just wives or mothers or seen as immigrants. They are actually providers of their families and contributors to the Danish society overall. And I think it's a very important thing to remember about this is that these fundamental social changes are based on skills and knowledge passed down from generation to generation. Skills and knowledge that so easily can be forgotten if we not, as a society, do ensure a framework that can support people to unfold their full potential. Food traditions carry a fundamental knowledge about what is healthy according to commodities, to amounts, to what is safe and wise for us to nourish by. And it is knowledge that has been proved to work for over quite a longer period, I think. So rather than trying to create new foods as a solution for our growing health problem, I think we ought to look to the traditional cooking skills and knowledge passed through generations for healthy food. Because forgetting this knowledge embedded in traditional cooking means a loss of identity and consequently a loss of diversity. In that sense, the women in More Spices represent a group of women who previously lived in what we in a social context can define as almost invisible lives, the gap between cultures and with the risk of losing identity. But they have, by using their cooking skills, become active and successful businesswomen, lifting the food diversity in our area to a higher level, which mirrors the composition of the area. And it's my claim that these women have used their cultural skills to make social changes, not just for themselves, but also for the society in general. And in relation to this, I think it's very important to stress the very positive spillover this has on the women's families and their children especially, for there's no doubt that it also has a strong integrating effect on the children to experience not only the recognition and the respect their mothers get from making good food for their originating countries, but also to see and experience their mother's joy and pride in going to work and be self-supporting every day. In that sense, I think the food that we make in More Spices does not just ensure food diversity in our local community, but that food also plays a huge role in securing a better overall integration. I end my small presentation by quoting my very good colleague, which you actually made pakora yesterday at our potluck. Yeah, she's a brilliant cook. She's originating from Pakistan, and she's a very clever woman, I think. Ramat, she says, "I'm cooking with love, and of course it can be tasted. I've been cooking all my life. My mother taught me. Like me, my children now learn it. And I'm proud that with my cooking, I can help create jobs for other women who might have a hard time getting a job." And I think that Ramat is quite right. It is actually quite simple, I think. Of course, there are some issues, but I think we can do it, because I think that food is an absolutely precious, imperative driver of social change, and that food diversity especially plays a significant role in both the securing the cohesion and the integration of our society. So let's start eating. Thank you.